Hi everyone, Joe Carrick, managing broker of Coldwell Banker Real Estate in Danville, and this is your San Ramon Valley real estate update for the week of September 28th. So probably 2 to 3 times a day, I'm getting asked, because I've been professionally doing this for 42 years, sold through 5 recessions. Joe, where do you think that the market's going? Well, my one side, my kind of sensible side says, okay, well, we're basically on a 10-year bull run of prices going up. At some point, we have to see a correction. This is the longest period that we've seen in my 42 years, because there's always less time between each recession or correction. And 10 years has been the longest. So there's a part of me that says, okay, well, it has to end. This wild ride we're on, this nuts ride of real estate prices and the activity has to end. But there's the other side of me of sitting there going, okay, well, what's going to make it end? Because what's driving the market right now is lack of inventory and a lot of demand. So obviously supply and demand, supply is low and demand is high. So you sit there and say, okay, well, because here's the thing I want to remind you guys of. There isn't more inventory coming on the market. In the country, we're 2 to 3 million homes short. And in the Bay Area, it's obviously we're in a big hurt because it's tough to build in the Bay Area. There's so many regulations and it's so costly for the builders to actually build. And there's not a lot of land, and land is so expensive. So inventory is not going to change. Inventory is always going to, the supply is always going to be low. Now people will say, but Joe, I can remember when, there was a lot of supply. Understand that there wasn't a lot of supply because all of a sudden 30,000 more homes were built. There was a lot of supply because demand went down. It's not that there was a lot more supply that hit the market. It's just the demand went down. So the supply is not going to change. We're going to have a lack of supply for homes. So what can slow the market down is the lack of demand. So what is driving? Why is there such a demand right now? Well, there's 3 reasons mainly in the San Ramon Valley. One is the low interest rates. I mean, we're talking about 2.6, 2.7, 2.8%. And that's nuts. That's, almost free money. So people are taking advantage of the low interest rate to get into their dream home. I mean, things are more affordable. If you can believe this, 49 out of the 50 states are more affordable now, their real estate, than they were in 1995. And people go, how could that be? Prices were so much lower. Well, the interest rates make that much of a difference. The one state that isn't more affordable, basically every other one of our clients are moving when we sell their homes is Idaho. So Idaho is just kind of going nuts. People live in Idaho don't like us too much. Matter of fact, any state where a lot of Californians go to don't like us too much because we raise their prices. And you'd sit there and go, well, what's wrong with that? Well, their philosophy is a little bit different. In California, we look at our home as an investment. But when you go to Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, Texas, they look at their home as a home where they raise their family. And so what happens is Californians go there, go, what a deal. They drive up the prices. And now their children that they're raising in that home, the lifelong Texans and such forth like that, their goal is that their kids can come in and buy a home in the same neighborhood they were raised. But as raising prices go up, that can't happen. And so as Californians drive into a market and raise the prices, you got to remember the people who are working there, their wages aren't going up. So they can't afford these higher prices. They're not selling a home and walking away with $500 or $1 million in equity. So you have a situation where so people are taking advantage of the interest rates. The other thing that's happening is the shift from urban to suburban. And we're seeing a lot of that for a lot of reasons because it's like, okay, well, you know what? I need a little bit more room because now I have to have 2 offices in my house. I have to have some outside space because the kids can't go anyplace. So things are a lot more expensive in the peninsula, San Jose, Santa Clara. So people are coming over the San Ramon Valley because they're getting more home. They're getting the amenities that they want and the amenities that they need. The other thing is just pure affordability. I mean, for what they're paying $1 million or what they could buy here for $1 million, it's costing them $2 million in Santa Clara near Silicon Valley. And because of their work situation, where they don't have to go to the office, they're basically coming over here where they can get a much better deal on a house. So those three factors, there's really no end in sight of that changing. So you look at supply and demand, and even though my one side sits there and says, Jesus has to end, there's really not any factors out there, unless something really drastic happens, that I really see an end in sight. So let's look at some graphs just to kind of back that up a little bit. Well, first off, look at the projection on home prices over the next 12 months. And you look at Zelman and Zillow and Fannie Mae and NAR. Everyone is basically, all the majors are, I showed you this a couple months ago, and Corelogic was actually thought prices were going to go down. They've completely changed their tune. So basically, everyone expects prices, all the big players expect prices to continue to go up. So, but let's look at pending home sales. We talked about a V recovery. Well, if that's not a V recovery, I've never seen a V before. You look at 2004 through 2019, and yet a market's going up and down, up and down. But you can see in 2020, in February, we had the best February in 13 years. And then obviously with COVID, it just crashed. And we talked here, I've been talking to you guys for, 6 months, that we were going to have a V recovery because of all the indicators. And certainly we did. Sometimes people call it a Nike swoosh or a V. 84% of the economists feel that it was going to be a V or Nike swoosh recovery. And you can see it's kind of been a V, then kind of turning into a Nike swoosh a little bit. But here's the interesting part. Look at it where it was in February at about, 108. And now you can see it's, over 120. So we've definitely sat there and not only recovered everything, it's gone beyond where it was in February, which was our best February in 13 years as far as pending home sales. So look at the year-over-year change in listings. Remember, so the pending sales are up here. Look what's going on with the listings. Because we don't have that added inventory going to the market, it's driving the listings down, and it's making the supply and demand worse. And you'll see that when you look at the graphs, for the cities. Housing Market Recovery Index. Basically, it's as high as it's ever been. You see that, the recovery at the peak again, 106.5, and it's 107.7. And the February 1st baseline was 100. So, and again, same thing with Windemere economics. You look at it and it shows the same thing. You can see all the way it's up, down, going up a little bit. And you can see where February kind of peaked a little bit. And then obviously that downward slant. And then you can see the V recovery, just like the graph I showed you before. And again, good luck finding a home to buy though. Interest rates are low, but you can see where the inventory of homes are going. So let's look at the different markets in the San Ramon Valley. First, the city of San Ramon. You can see that anytime you have an inverted pending active, where your pendings far outpace your supply, that's definitely a seller's market. And we're seeing that in what people are paying, 5, 10, 15 offers on a home, going for $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 more than asking. So you can see that San Ramon, the good part about it, it stayed pretty steady the last 3 weeks as far as the pending sales and the active properties. Obviously, 2 weeks ago, the pending sales were up, the active properties were up a little bit, but they've dipped a little bit, but at least they've stayed somewhat in line with each other. So that's a good sign. Danville, very similar. You see the pending sales basically have stayed about the same. Actives, though, have gone down. That's never a good sign. So what that means is the fact that people are still buying and we're not getting as much backfill as far as new listings coming on the market in Danville. Look at Blackhawk. I talked about this a couple weeks ago where if you saw, 2 weeks ago, there was 21 active properties and 21 pendings. 32 plus years I've been professionally selling real estate in Blackhawk and have sold a couple hundred homes in Blackhawk. And I have never seen a market where there's been more pending sales than there's been active. And never even seen it where it's the same. And 2 weeks ago, it was like 21 and 21. I'm going, wow. Well, look at last week, 23 pendings and 20 actives. First time I've ever seen in 32 years that there's actually less active properties than pending. And you sit there and go, yeah, but Joe, that's all the markets. But one thing you have to remember about Blackhawk is a lot of those active properties are not homes that sell right away. Matter of fact, the average price of those pending properties are $1.5 million to $2 million in Blackhawk. You know what the average price is of the active properties in Blackhawk? $3.3 million. So it's like a pyramid. As prices go up, there's less buyers. So that's why Blackhawk, because Blackhawk has that high end of $2.5, $3, $4, $5 million homes. And so you have a situation where Blackhawk always has more active properties supply than they do demand because they have all those high-end properties. So there is almost hardly any inventory in Blackhawk when you take away that all those homes over 2 million that are basically under 2 million properties. That's why we've recently listed a couple homes in Blackhawk, and they basically have sold multiple offers within a day. Let's look at Alamo. Alamo is the same type of thing. You've seen the inventory build up a little bit. Again, Alamo has an average price of $2 million. So you'll definitely always have that, that curve where you'll have more inventory because wherever you have more upper end homes, you'll have that. That's why Blackhawk is so surprising that basically, there's actually less actives now than there are pending sales. Dublin is a market that's really gone nuts. And the reason why is because there's a lot of people coming from San Jose to Fremont, and Dublin kind of gives them that easy pathway, because they still have friends, they still have relatives in the South Bay, and they still want to go down there. But the other thing you have is Dublin's average price is like $1 million, the lowest one of all the different areas that we look at. So, look what's happened. The pending sales jumped way up, and the active properties jumped way down. That's not, if you're a buyer, that's not a good sign. It is so out of whack as far as the supply and demand. Definitely a seller's market there. So when we look at the list price, the sold price percentage, you've been seeing this go up and up and up. And like I said, the reason why is the supply and demand. So the nicest listings are getting multiple offers. Obviously, no one's going to offer more than 100% of asking if they're the only offer. So the average price in San Ramon, Danville, Alamo, and Dublin is 103% of asking price. So Blackhawk you see at 99%, but again, that's because of the price range. Anytime it's a higher price range, there's always a little bit more negotiating. But for the most part, you can see the last couple of weeks, Blackhawk's been about 100% of asking. So, and the other areas obviously have sold, well over that. So, people always ask, they sit there and go, Joe, but what about the election? Isn't things going to slow down with the elections? Well, I will tell you that what I feel, and what I'm going to show you in a second, what the experts feel, that we might have a little bit of pause. That's why we're telling our buyers, hey, if you're a buyer, get into this market and be ready because we might have a little bit of a lull. Because let's face it, as you guys know, we just had a debate and I don't even know how to describe it, so I'm not even going to try. So anyway, let's just put it this way. I don't think you can be a Republican or a Democrat and walk away and feel, great about that debate. But anyway, we do have an election coming up, and here's one thing for sure, because, there's two completely different paths. As I tell people, this isn't like the elder Bush running against Bill Clinton, where one's a little left and one's a little right. And to be honest with you, whoever got elected, they weren't going to change a whole lot. This is completely two different mindsets. So who's ever running on the other side of the person you don't want, you're really worried. So up until a couple weeks before the election, there's going to be 100% of the people there that are a little bit worried where our country might go. And certainly after the election, there's going to be 50% people that are really worried about it. So that uncertainty, they expect that maybe to pause the market. Matter of fact, here's what the BTIG home building report said, that this may indicate that potential home buyers may become more cautious in the face of a national election uncertainty. This caution is temporary, and the ultimate results in deferred sales as the economy, jobs, interest rates, and consumer confidence all have far more meaningful roles in the home purchase decision than a presidential election result in the months that follow. So, in other words, what they're saying is, yeah, there might be a little uncertainty, there might be a little slowdown, but for the most part, after the election, no matter who wins, the indicators of supply and demand out there and the low interest rates, that's going to kick back in. And it's not going to be much different than where we are right now, of course, unless something drastic happens. But so anyway, as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. Again, Joe Carrick, managing broker of Coldwell Banker Real Estate in Danville. My phone number, 925-487-6838. You can email me at joe.carrick@cbrealty.com. The other thing on California, unfortunately, we have more fires. Napa, I know a lot of people that actually have been evacuated up in Napa. And, just like through the last 6 months, may God bless those people that are up there fighting the fire. I mean, we walk out and we see the smoke, and we're 10,000 miles away, hundreds of miles away, and where the smoke's coming from. Can you imagine being right there and fighting it? So God bless those people. Obviously, the first responders, our military, our police, our medical people. So because they're in the front lines, keeping things safe for us. So may God bless them, may God bless you, and may God bless your family, and may God bless the United States of America. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.